how do you go from, or tell me about the transition from your time in Baltimore and then going up to New York City and your career there?
Yeah. So, well, it's funny, even though I've only come to, and as we discussed earlier, but for the sake of listeners, I have never been formally diagnosed with anything. But I don't personally feel the need to.
I would
And,
agree.
but it doesn't mean it's not there. So, what I did notice early on, actually, as a high schooler working in the theater, I enjoyed it. I was good at it. I was hit perfectly where no one else wanted to take it on, so I got a lot of responsibility. I've always done well with a lot of responsibility. I can dig in. I can hyper focus. I'm like, bam, got it. And that drove me into career theater, but one of the things that was most appealing about it to me was the fact that it's constantly different. You're always doing a different show, and even if you do the same show, it's a different production of it. So one example that's easy to give is, like, I've done Macbeth many, many times, but it's never the same. I've done Macbeth set in the 1940s. Literally, the set was Stonehenge. I did that in college. I've done Macbeth set in an office building high rise. I've done Macbeth, in the traditional sense, traditional sort of Shakespearean setting. So the fact that it's constantly different always appealed to me, and I did somewhere deep in my brain recognize early on that was like going to be a good choice for Becky. that the same day in and day out was a bad choice for Becky. So now fast forwarding into my 20s, look at me staying on track. Fast forwarding into my 20s, I definitely job hopped a lot. Like way before I heard the term neurodivergence, my mom used to joke that I had job ADD at the very least. So I went from teaching or working at Baltimore Center Stage to teaching at Baltimore School for the Arts. In the summer, I was a swimming instructor. I helped manage a swim and tennis club. At that point, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I was nannied a lot. I actually, at that point, and at this point, I was 24, maybe 25, started traveling. And that was a huge boon on my life, I have to say. Really helped me figure out a way to present myself in a lot of situations.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I would say one hallmark looking back on my life of the neurodivergence is that it took me a while to put together that what's happening in my brain is not happening on the outside for a degree. And that what I think I'm communicating, I'm by no means communicating, which is why I think being a neurodivergent has made me an extremely good communicator in the end, for the most part. And this ranges from realizing in college that my face didn't match my thoughts and emotions.
Ooh. Yes. Do you have an example or a story of that?
Sure. Well, when I was a kid, like I said, and even now as an adult, when I'm unguarded, like I told you, my boyfriend comes in watching me having full-on, very animated conversations with myself out loud, full hand gestures, full range of emotions, like honestly happening as I'm having this conversation with myself. And he's often comes by and he's like, oh yeah, really? Or he's like, he'll just walk past me and go, who's winning? And so, but as a kid, that was all out there. And I had to learn to cap it, to tap it down and to just like appear neutral. And so I somewhere along the lines learned how to appear extremely neutral. And then I had to learn how to layer in the appropriate emotion back over that.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah. And I think one thing was in college, I was in the theater department for whatever. And I remember walking out on stage and I was, not feeling well. Like I was just, I think my allergies or something, I just wasn't feeling well. And so I was like a little subdued, but like everyone was kind of like giving me looks. And I went over to a friend of mine and I was like, hey, what's going on? I went to give him a hug and he gave me a hug. He goes, oh, thank God. He's like, I thought you were mad at me. And then the entire group was like, oh, I thought you were mad at me. And I was like, I just have allergies. But I realized that like my range of emotions is like, can be a lot. Like I can be a lot. And learning to make sure, not even regulate my emotions, like you regulate them to a degree, right? But like I learned to regulate my emotions as a child, as most people do. But to make sure that it doesn't bleed onto other people at all, kind of thing.
Sure. And there's sometimes can be like those unintended consequences where you didn't want to appear that way. And so you
100%.
became more self-aware.
Much
going
more
forward.
self-aware going forward. Exactly. So that was a big one, learning of the like the face versus the inside and what's going on. And also, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of my more solid examples of that, to be honest.